tennis hip again. We're losing ourselves to pickleball. Any tennis player right now who wants to switch over to pickleball is getting sponsored immediately. So the incredible part about Rafa is that I got to practice with him maybe 10, 12 times when I was there. What you see on TV about him being this bull and just, like grit and power and stamina and strength. Off the court, he's such a nice human being, so humble, so down to earth. Initially, I got a lot of hate. So I never wanted to be a rapper. I got a little bit of hate for this because I was told that I paint a very pessimistic or negative view about India. When something like that happens, especially in a country like India, you obviously get scared. If you piss off somebody who's in a position of power, they have the chance to make your life a living hell. I used to hold a knife by my wrist. If I, just move my hand a little bit, it's all over. All my problems are gone. I was on a flight, on the runway, ready to take off, and we start speeding up. Out of nowhere, there's this loud screeching sound. The plane immediately starts braking, so the pilots have slammed the brakes, and the cabin crew starts yelling at the top of their lungs, head down, face down. If we had continued our takeoff and the acceleration, we would have...
Every professional athlete wears a mask. The composed competitor, the media-trained spokesperson, the role model who never speaks out of turn. But what happens when the mask becomes a prison? When a professional tennis player decides to become the voice of a generation? Today's guest is Adil Kalyanpur. His backhand is as sharp as his bars. His serve comes with a side of social justice, and he's done something most athletes are terrified to do. He's removed the mask. Adil, welcome to the Mask Podcast.
Pleasure to be here. Experience for me. Never been in such a fancy podcast studio in my life.
Brother, I wanted to start with, that's been on my mind for a very long time. There's this unwritten rule in tennis. Stay in your lane, don't rock the bottom, hustle, focus on your rankings. So when did you feel first time the mask of tennis has been forced on you?
I think you realize as you, play in a sport for a significantly long period of time, there are certain societal norms that get pushed on you and you end up sort of suppressing certain emotions because that's what you're expected to do. If you have to travel 25 weeks of the year, you travel 25 weeks of the year. You don't ask questions. And that's sort of what tennis sort of teaches you, or maybe every sport, that you get on the court, what the coach tells you to do, you just do it. You don't really, you're not supposed to sort of think for yourself or figure out what works for you and, sort of your own preferences, because that doesn't really matter. In the long run, you're supposed to just get the reps in, you're supposed to do the work, and you're supposed to sort of shut the mind out. So I think we all naturally end up wearing a mask, whether we like it or not.
So when did you realize that you are wearing the mask for the first time?
I'd say when I was roughly 19, 20, I was living in Germany, going through some mental stuff, and I realized that, I'm sort of not exactly doing what I'm passionate about on a day-to-day basis. I'm sort of living by something that I'm supposed to be doing. And that sort of affected me a little bit because I realized that I was sort of being fake to a certain extent.
You said you were being fake to yourself, and you realized that at that moment that I'm not doing enough?
I was just trying to shut down all the emotions that I was feeling and just pursue this career, which maybe to a certain extent wasn't giving me a lot of fulfillment or enjoyment. So I ended up not liking the sport, not liking what I was doing. And that caused a lot of internal friction and just, I guess, a lot of negative emotions.
So what did you do at that moment?
I took a step back from tennis for a while, sort of understood that, I got to prioritize a little bit of the mental peace, and what I was going through was certain chemicals in the mind just sort of making me feel a certain way. That's what I realized, that mental health is sort of, something that isn't talked about so much. I was sort of in my little bubble, not expressing myself, staying in that little bubble, which kind of made things worse over time. So I took some time away from tennis. I took some time away from sort of feeling guilty that, wow, I have so many opportunities in life. I'm able to travel the world. I'm able to pursue a career in something that I'm passionate about, but for some reason I'm not feeling enjoyment or fulfilled in any way. And so that sort of affected me a little bit mentally. So I decided to take a step back and sort of understand what was the root cause. And I realized that there was no real root cause. It just needed addressing. It just needed for me to sort of rewire how my brain was perceiving things.
Interesting. As a young tennis player in Germany, what your day-to-day looked like?
It's a lot of training. It's a lot of hours on the court, spending maybe 4 hours on the tennis court, an hour and a half, 2 hours in the gym. It's pretty intense. I'd say the Europeans have a certain way that they they coach their athletes. It's not for the weak, I'd have to say. It's,
Yeah.
it's intense training. You go there because you're trying to be in a high performance environment. You're trying to improve. You're trying to learn. You're trying to get better. So they will push you to a certain extent, and that's good because I feel like I did improve a lot
Yeah.
during my time in Europe, and that's the hub of tennis. So I feel like every player should go there and experience what that level is like.
Right.
Mm.
And I remember through your journey that you were a part of Rafa Nadal Academy also at some point.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
So the incredible part about Rafa is that I got to practice with him maybe 10, 12 times when I was there. I was a junior, a 16-year-old kid from India. He doesn't have to spend more than 30 seconds with me saying hi or whatever before the practice session, but he realized that I'm a little bit nervous. He'd take extra time to chat with me. He gave me a hug before the session. Like, we would just like talk. He'd kind of understand what my tennis career is like at the moment, what my tournament plan is like, and how my family is. He'd ask questions like that. So what you see on TV about him being this bull and just, like grit and power and stamina and strength, he just wants to shred the opponent into pieces. Off the court, he's such a nice human being, so humble, so down to earth. That was something that I didn't quite expect, and I didn't, realize he was such a nice dude.
Yeah.
So it also made me feel a lot more comfortable. And he was, sweet enough to sort of be on the court sometimes, just giving tips.
Yeah.
It's not necessary that he was always, practicing. He was just coming around the academy, helping the players with, their struggles, giving them advice. So that aspect was good. It was a pretty incredible experience being at the academy and, seeing how the best in the world trains, plays. It's something that, I'll always cherish for sure.
So if you have to suggest someone to go train in Europe, would you suggest them to go and train at Rafa?
Damn, that's putting me on the spot there. I would recommend players to go to Europe, definitely.
Yeah.
That, like I said, that's the hub for tennis. The academy is purely up to their decision. They have to figure out what coach they want to work with. They will have to figure out their budget, which city or country they'd prefer being in. So there are a lot of factors that would affect it. But in general, in Europe, every city you go to, every academy you go to has quality players. So that's the difference, I think, between Europe and India, because there you get access to high performance athletes in every city.
Yeah.
And it's a shocker because in India, you're always just fixing up with a friend and practicing. There's no coach, there's no fitness trainer, there's nothing under one roof, there's no proper center where you can get everything, when you can get access to this. But in Europe, it's available in every 10 kilometers, you're seeing a tennis club, you're seeing players. It's easy to, you can get fixed up like this. So I think that when Indians go there, they realize what the meaning of having a system in tennis really means.
Yeah, because I feel it saves you from a lot of unnecessary mental stress of fixing the practice hours, the fitness, the physio, whereas you just go there at one spot and you get everything at one spot.
100%. That's definitely lacking in India. I mean, we can't have like a national center where, the walls are peeling off in the gym.
Yeah.
The food is primarily rice and dal or whatever, dal chawal that they give. And the air, the pollution is 400 AQI or whatever. The pollution levels are terrible. So it's that can't be the best that our country can offer.
Yeah.
So to go there and learn what is being offered to the international players, we have to sort of realize that Indians are far lacking, one, from infrastructure, and two, from the opportunities that we get.
Yeah, and the kind of support we get.
The kind of support, exactly. And it's beyond, people say that Indian tennis needs change and, we need a system in place. 100% agree with that. We do need more tournaments. We need a national training center, high performance athletes. But beyond that, I feel like the association could definitely help the players with their brand. And if each player can work on their brand, you have to sell tennis. At the end of the day, in today's day and age, you have to market something well enough for an audience. And so if you sell your athletes, if you sell a Yuki Bambri, if you sell a Mukund Sasikumar, so when he's going on the streets, people are like, that's that tennis player.
That's right.
Then you get a crowd. You host any tournament, you're getting in, 2,000-3,000 people that are coming in. You're getting in sponsors. Then there's more money for the players. There's more attention to the sport. There's more hype, more people picking up tennis because they're saying, wow, look at Mukund Sasikumar. He's like, he's my idol. I see him play in front of 3,000 people and winning, and like that hype, that excitement. You can't sell a sport if you're not selling the players. And so I think that there are a lot of really, really good talented players, but they're not being branded the right way. And I do feel that, yes, to a certain extent the player has a responsibility, but as well as the association or
Yeah, you at least need to educate the players that this is something which needs to be done.
yes, that, and bring the hype to the tournaments
True.
by marketing it well. Like you gotta get the Gen Z crowd into it. Make
Yeah,
tennis hip again. We're losing ourselves to pickleball, and it's concerning. So
100%.
we gotta make a change now.
Yeah. So how do you see tennis in front of pickleball and paddle?
I think every tennis player right now who disses pickleball and who says pickleball is not a sport, it's for old people, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
they are secretly looking over their shoulder and wondering what's going on in that sport. And the reason is because there's so much hype, there's so much money, so much opportunity, so many sponsors waiting to just be thrown at the players. Like, it's
Wow.
just like any tennis player right now who wants to switch over to pickleball is getting sponsored immediately.
Amazing.
And you've been playing tennis for 20 years. You're financially struggling. You're traveling halfway across the world to earn one ATP point, spending all the money yourself. Here, you could have an entire sporting career, because pickleball, they say, is not a sport, but you can have a sporting career
Yeah.
just purely living in India with Indian expenses, with all your expenses actually being covered by a sponsor because it's so easy to get, playing in front of 2,000-3,000 people at a time just because there's so much hype over pickleball. Every match is like sold out. There's tickets being sold. There's
Wow.
leagues. It's incredible. So tennis players are feeling the threat, and I feel like they should be. The federation should be. There should be alarms going on in their head that, oh my God, this new sport has come. It's a smaller investment than tennis, but it's doing so much better. Why? Because they're just marketing it better.
That's
They're just
true.
marketing their players, marketing the sports, the tournaments, the leagues so much better than tennis is. So it could overshadow tennis in the next 5 to 10 years if we as tennis players, or if the federation doesn't make a significant change now.
So do you think on a higher platform or on a domestic level only, it's gonna overcome tennis? What do you think?
On a domestic level, to be brutally honest, I feel like it already has overcome tennis. In Bangalore, if you see a tennis tournament come, we get maybe 150, 200 people coming to watch as an audience.
Wow.
In pickleball, you'll get 500-600 people at the minimum.
Oh my God.
And sponsorships, like if you just host a pickleball league next week and you reach out to 25 brands, 15 of them are going to say yes.
Wow.
In tennis, you could reach out to 500 brands and like one or two will be like, okay, sure, but what's the return on investment? They'll ask a million questions. But in pickleball, it's just so much easier. So yes, on a domestic level, I feel like it already has surpassed tennis, which is quite scary. On an international level, it hasn't got there yet, but it's definitely on the way up. And it seems like it could surpass us in a couple of years. But yeah, for that, only time will tell.
Yeah, that's really interesting to know how a new sport is doing so far better than a established sport.
Yeah, but you can't beat tennis. You can't beat the
Yeah,
class. You can't
yeah.
beat the elegance of Wimbledon. So there are some things, we have going for our sport, but it does require that little bit of adapting to the modern world and a little bit of that marketing in order to make it exciting again
Yeah.
for the new crowd.
That's right. What are your thoughts on Indian tennis right now?
I believe India is not going to create a Grand Slam champion for at least another 10 years. Everybody is saying it's because of the system, there's no system in place. And that is 100% factual. There is no system in place for Indians to excel in our environment. That's why everybody says go to Spain, go to Germany, go to Europe, train there with the best coaches, with the best facilities, best players. Everything is best out there. So living in India, we are trying to make the best of what we have. But what if we had the best? And that means, say, a federation that supports even the top 10 players in the country and helps them with their travels, has one dedicated center where all the players collectively train. So you're always going to get high quality match practice, high quality training. Indian coaches are good enough. There are so many good coaches in our country. We have this theory that white people are better.
Yeah.
There is somehow, I guess, maybe because we were conquered by the British people.
That's true.
So we were technically, looking up to.
Yeah, we give more weightage to people with light skinned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's transferred into all parts of our life. Parents think, oh, if my son goes and trains with that foreign coach, he'll do better than if he stays in India and trains with this Indian coach. But Indian coaches are just as good, if not better, because Indians understand Indians. And
That's
we
true.
sort of got to create that ecosystem where we build players from India.
We are lacking on the planning part already because I don't think association is. Do you think they're doing enough?
To be honest, no. And this is not a diss to them, but there is so much more that can be done.
Yeah, because when I talk to a friend who's not so involved in tennis, and they ask me, okay, who's India number one right now in singles and doubles? So when I mention Sumit Nagal or Yuki Bhambri, they're like, oh, who are they?
Yeah.
We don't know him. We don't know them.
Correct.
Adil, I'm going to touch on a little bit of your social content part. When you started making it about the social issues, what was the reaction of people around you?
Initially, I got a lot of hate. Weirdly, not weirdly. I mean, it's very it's okay to get hate. It's fine. But I never wanted to be a rapper or anything of that sort. I was just I got inspired by Gully Boy, the movie about rapping.
Yeah.
And I have at home, I have like this notebook where I write down my bucket list for my life, things I want to do before I die.
So that was around COVID?
Yes, right before COVID.
Okay.
I had written down, make a rap song. I just wanted to make one just for the vibes. It's like making a piece of art or whatever.
Yeah.
And so when COVID hit, I had the time, obviously, and I, spent my days writing lyrics and figuring out how to mix and master and that whole business. So 3 months into COVID, I had my first rap song, and it was sort of just a one-time thing that I was going to do. I enjoyed the process so much, and I turned it. It somehow naturally ended up going from just something on my bucket list into a hobby, and now I'm 35 songs in, 250 songs in the drafts.
Wow.
And doesn't seem like I'm going to be stopping anytime soon.
Yeah.
But yes, it did come with a lot of hate, only because I was really bad at it at first. But anything you pick up, you're going to be bad at. And I'm not saying I'm good at it now, maybe a little bit better than when I started. But there are, I did have some friends talking crap about me behind my back, because it's not your normal kind of rap. It's not pumpy, and it's not about drugs, girls, or money. It's about social causes. So for the person that likes rap songs about, those topics, mine seems very dull and, like, why is that guy doing this? Like, what is he trying to achieve? Those kinds of questions.
Yeah.
And just in general, like, I guess I am putting myself out there, sharing my opinion. So it does come with a certain fair share of criticism, which at this point I'm okay with, kind of numb to it.
Yeah, your skin got thicker.
Yeah, playing tennis, it's just like when you go through so many failures and losses and rejections on the court, you're up match point and then you lose. You applied for that wild card, you didn't get it. So after playing sports for 25 years, nothing can phase you. You just you're numb to rejection. You're sending me hate messages? Who cares? I've dealt with worse. I flew all the way to Africa and lost first round 1-1 to a guy who was not ranked after having match points. Like, come on, I've just been through enough. Injured, rolled my ankle in Mexico. I've had enough of rejection, so your comment doesn't change my life at all.
Yeah. So you kind of questioned the society in your raps.
Yes.
Yeah. But I feel that's what happens. Even when I was in military, you can't question the orders. You just have to say yes, sir.
Yes.
And that's what made me quit military also. That I can't keep saying yes to every bullshit.
Yeah, so I question the system to a certain extent. I got a little bit of hate for this because I was told that I paint a very pessimistic or negative view about India. I do make rap songs or content about, for example, corruption, when it comes to, say, taxes or the roads in India, garbage on the streets, those kind of things. But it's purely to raise awareness. I consider myself a very patriotic person, and none of my songs are me saying India sucks, India is bad. None of that is coming from that point of view. It's just purely coming from a place of, it's a great country, but we do have these flaws. Let's not live in denial. Let's not live in this place where, no, we're perfect and we don't need to change. We do have to change. We have a lot that we can work on, but we have so much potential. So all I'm trying to do with the content that I create is to try and raise awareness of what we as common people in our country can do. We don't have to keep relying on the government. We don't have to keep relying on some billionaire to come in and help us clean our roads. We can do it ourselves with, our daily decisions. So that's pretty much the only thing that I want to try and promote through those, kind of videos.
Yeah, but that's so powerful of you, man. Because at a very young age, you are thinking so much about society. Because even when I visit our neighboring South Asian countries, even these small countries, they are able to keep themselves so clean.
Exactly.
I was so surprised to see Colombo, man, to be honest. When, in the time of chaos, if you remember, we went for this ITF futures.
Yeah.
In Colombo, when there was this crisis going on, their president, he ran away.
There was strikes or something on the...
Yes. Yeah. Even in such chaos, I felt so much peace in Colombo. It was so clean. People were so nice.
Yeah. That's the difference. I mean, and India is very capable of, having that sort of a reputation. It's just that we as individual people have to do more for it.
That's right. Adil, I love your rap and the way you use your voice, how you rap about women's safety in India, corruption content. That's risky for an athlete. What's your framework for deciding when to speak out versus when to stay quiet?
I pissed off some very high level politicians. The way I found out was through their sons
Okay.
who reached out to me. When something like that happens, especially in a country like India, you obviously get scared because no matter how legally right you are, because technically there's supposed to be freedom of speech, if you piss off somebody who's in a position of power, they have chance to make your life a living hell. They can just throw a lot of inconveniences your way. There's just a lot that can be done. So I was made to make an apology, which, but it didn't have to be public, so it wasn't a big deal.
Okay.
But I remember there was a small phase where I was scared almost
Oh my God.
because when you're playing tennis, you get certain hate messages from like betting companies or people that bet on you when you lose or whatever. That's just
Yeah.
they get pissed. But when it comes to people in your city and who know technically where you go and what you do, because I'm a tennis player, I'm obviously going to the academy. I've posted stories occasionally of where I'm training. So it's concerning when somebody who's very pissed off technically knows your whereabouts and is in the same city as you. There is no formula for realizing which one to share and which one not to share. My mom is sort of the deciding factor. When I have something that I feel is a little bit risky, I'll send it to her. I'll be like, what do you think? And to be brutally honest, there have been about 3 songs to this day that I haven't shared because my mom said, absolutely not.
Okay.
It's my right as a citizen of India. I'm allowed, I have freedom of speech.
That's
I'm
true.
exercising my right. If that lands me in trouble, it's just another proof that our system is failing. That we're not living in a democratic country. That I'd like to believe I can say anything and nothing is going to happen to me. Maybe I get proved wrong at some point, but up until that happens, I'm going to share my thoughts and opinions on certain topics.
But that's fascinating because a lot of people with platforms, they play it safe.
Yeah. I got shadow banned actually on YouTube, and then I got a strike on Instagram. Something got taken down, I remember.
Is it?
Yeah. And it was a weird reason, and they sent me an email, they sent me a warning on Instagram. There was a whole thing. And I remember feeling like, what did I even, like, this was so basic. What did I even say or do? I've said worse things. This was not even a
Yeah.
big reason for any sort of shadow ban or whatever. But that's when you realize
What
that
was that video about which you got shadow banned for?
I had shared a video about a rape case. I took footage from the news channels and I blurred out anything that was considered explicit content, obviously, because that would ban me. But it was properly blurred out, but for some reason they still had an issue with it. That's just silliest reason. No, I've said enough things with the words, but
Yeah.
they shadow banned me for the actual footage. It sometimes feels like you're trying to be silenced in a certain way, but you realize that all of these are usually at the end of the day algorithms that are just flagging your account.
When you rap about corruption or politicians, are you worried about your tennis career?
Sometimes, yeah. But I assume that because I'm not targeting any one person or party, or I'm staying neutral. When I talk about politicians, I'm not talking about those human beings. I'm talking about the system in general. One of the places that I do want to target is how can we clean up the system? Because I've spoken to people because I want to fact check myself before putting out any content. So I like to talk about things with, say, people in power and, understand why the system is the way it is, and only then try and create awareness with any sort of content.
For someone who wants to use their voice but is scared of consequences, what's your advice?
Use your voice because it's a gift that you have. Everybody living on this planet has a voice in some way or the other. Even if you can't speak, you can write down things that you want to share with the world. So there's no harm in being controversial. At the end of the day, we live in, I'd like to say, a country which allows us to have a freedom of speech. People like to complain about the system, but they don't like to actually do anything that helps change it.
Yeah.
And if you're not actually trying to help change it, then you're part of the system that's just accepting the flaws. But if all of us could come down and start doing our little part, voicing our opinions, trying to say what we feel could make, the country a better place or the world a better place for that matter, then maybe it will become a better place. If you just like collective efforts, but little, I'm putting in 0.001%
Yeah.
of the entire thing that's necessary. So we all have to sort of do it to make any sort of impact. It's not just like one or two people.
That's true. It's amazing to see you becoming a man. I've seen you on the courts, tennis courts, practicing, playing junior Wimbledon, representing India to where you have reached now, and sitting on the Mask podcast. But there's something which I'm very curious about right now. You didn't put off the mask of an athlete. You just put on another one, the rapper, the social commentator. How do you know which one is really you?
The rap came from the tennis because I would never have started rapping unless I had played tennis and I had a story or something to share, because that's how my first song started. Choosing who is me, I feel like it all just blends into one. It's the rapping tennis player, if that's a thing. I don't know. I'm sure there's other players out there who do the same. Denis Shapovalov, I think Corentin Mute, they all are rapping tennis players. So sure, maybe I guess I'm one of them. But yeah, the social commentary, I guess, it's just when you see a need or you just feel like, you want to see some change in your country. So to just want to be a part of that process and try and make a difference. We have limited time on this planet. Why not try and put our voice for good use? Whatever can happen, happens. But there's no harm in trying, right?
100%.
Yeah.
We should keep on trying as humans.
Yes.
Coming to that part, when you're doing social commentary and it's like something you're doing more activism than tennis, how do you handle that when you're being told that you're too much for the sport?
I mean, yeah, I guess creating content, some people came to the understanding that that's what I'm only doing right now and I'm not focused on my tennis at all. But it's at the end of the day just what I post online. 90% of my day is going in, training, hitting the gym, traveling for tournaments. I'm on the road, 30 weeks of the year roughly. So I do understand it maybe takes a bit more of my time than it should. But there's a fine balance because you do have a lot of time when you're traveling for tournaments, after matches. There's several hours of free time, which you can be doing something else. And so I choose to do it this way rather than, I don't know, chilling and watching movies and stuff, the things that I used to do before, because I felt like I wasn't really, maximizing my time on this planet.
Yeah. That is something which I was going to come next. Like, how do you integrate both? But you already answered this, that on your free times when you used to watch movies, watch the daily soaps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Trade out all those those cheap dopamine sources for a hobby, something that you can build over time and you just feel more productive. I think that there's little devices, little iPhones, Android, whatever device you have, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, there's so many distractions, so much instant gratification available nowadays that people have lost that ability to just have a hobby, something that they do in their free time, because now free time is just Netflix, free time is just Instagram scrolling, YouTube videos, whatever. It's concerning. So I don't know, I guess I didn't want to be a part of that. I just wanted to be able to do something somewhat productive during those hours which I would have otherwise lost on my phone just scrolling.
So I think there's a lot of young people who are watching this. And how did you first got aware about this, that okay, because I don't think people get exposed to that part, that oh yeah, this is doing such big harm on us. Firstly that, and then secondly, I want you to take me to your day to day where you usually integrate both of them instead of just doom scrolling. You being productive and working on things you love, your hobbies. For example, you're traveling, you're in a new country, you have done your practice, you played your match. Like that, how do you prepare first, and then how do you integrate your artist side?
So what I realized is that when I try and be in this creative state of mind and write lyrics, I actually go away from being able to focus deeply on the court. So whenever I noticed for a while, because whenever I was writing lyrics the night before a match, I couldn't focus the next day on the court. It's like my brain was fried from trying to be creative and coming up with rhymes and lyrics and flows and whatever. And the next day it's just like shut off. So I had to sort of balance that out. Monday to Friday is tennis time. If I'm doing anything related to content, music, whatever it could be, it's just editing, it's just basic mixing and mastering, nothing creative. And then the weekends are creative because the weekends I can switch off. I'm traveling for the next tournament. I'm probably on a train ride somewhere in Europe, 4 or 5 hours. I can write lyrics. I can be creative in that frame of mind. And then come Monday, I'm back on the tennis grind. I'm doing my meditation, my focus. Everything is purely designed or calibrated in a way for me to be able to focus on the court. So nothing creative, no lyric writing. So I've tried to sort of figure out that balance between, not allowing that whole creative side or the music composition to affect me on court, because for a while it did actually. And so I had to kind of figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, so to come to that, what mental tools you use when your mind is in conflict with both the identities you have?
There's one tool that I use, and I feel like Indians don't use this enough, considering it's available everywhere in India: meditation. It's something I got into when I was 15. There's a tool called Yoga Nidra, which is a way you can reprogram your brain in any way you want. So you do need somebody who knows how to sort of guide you through it. But when you have access to training your subconscious mind, I feel like you can do, achieve, or feel however you want to. And so something that I've sworn by is doing like meditation to the point where I'm like sweating because it's so like exhausting. I'm trying so hard to focus on something. I'm trying, like I've spoken to like a friend, Rishi Reddy, the tennis player. I've told him, I'm like, sometimes when I'm meditating, like during tournaments, I'm trying to get into that zone. I end up like getting exhausted after like 15, 20 minutes. That's how intense like I was trying to meditate, because I was trying to get into that perfect state of mind and trying to like,
That there's no, what do you mean by perfect state of mind there?
It's where you're on the court and it almost looks like you're on cocaine, because you're just there and you're like, the ball could come anywhere. I am so ready for this. Like I will run to that corner, I'll run to China, to Japan, and I'll get every ball back into the court, and I'm on 100% intensity for the entire match. And if it is 6-all in the third set, tiebreaker 9-10, my focus is going to be so high that if a ball comes here, I know I'm going to hit it from here into that corner, and I have complete control over that because I'm just so focused.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, like I'm losing a little bit of intensity, I need to move my legs more. It's not like that. It's like you're hyper aware and in that zoned in state. The problem with this is you can burn out faster. And so this is what happened to me. I would get into this hyper focused state, and so my results ended up being sporadic because I could do it for about 4 to 5 matches in a row maximum, and I'd be done. And I need like a week rest because I was doing this very, very intense meditation.
Okay.
Where
so you were kind of seeing yourself playing those matches.
Yeah, I was seeing myself playing the matches and also doing sort of a focus meditation where you focus on a point, and if the mind, goes away, you get it back to that point. So it keeps rewiring or programming the brain to be able to focus on something that you choose to focus on. But I would do it in the most intense way because I'd be harsh on myself if I lost focus for a second. I'm like, no, get back to that point, like focus on it. So that's why the meditations would be so difficult, but I also saw the benefits. But to this day, I haven't been able to figure out how to stay consistent with that, because I do it for a week or two and then I'm just done and I need like another week off. And you can't, in tennis, you have to be consistent for long periods of time.
Yeah.
So that is one of the drawbacks. But for people who don't meditate at all, I feel there's so much potential that can be tapped into.
So you're kind of training your mind already. It's not only about meditation or just be in the moment, but it's more like you're training your brain. Use this term mind fitness.
Yes, mind fitness.
Yeah.
Your mind is a muscle. I think Kobe Bryant said this.
Yeah. I was reading this book called Visualize by Maya Raichura, and she mentioned this, that your brain is like a puppy. If you don't train it, it'll poop everywhere.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. 100%. Interesting one, but it's very accurate. Yeah.
So Adil, I want you to tell me about the habits which got you to the 215 doubles on ATP.
One of the main things that I think I changed with my approach to tennis was I shut my mind off. So beyond the bare minimum habits, which is, waking up, stretching, warm-ups, your routines, fitness, physio, all of that, I prioritized it definitely. But the one part which I changed for myself was stop caring how you feel. Like sometimes you're on the road, you're on a 26-hour journey to somewhere in Europe, and you start questioning, why am I doing this? And, okay, how am I going to, perform this week? Am I prepared for this tournament? Okay, I'm feeling a little bit underconfident. Training wasn't so good last week. Just shut everything off. That's something that you have to make a habit, because it's beyond all the other things that you have to do with regards to preparation and going on the court and getting your reps in. You have to keep feeding your mind one positive things, but shutting down the negative things as quickly as you can, because those things can spiral. So for me, the biggest habit that I added was trying to cut down all the negativity and the thoughts that were just coming in, making me feel a little underconfident, like, am I ready for this tournament? All of those questions, you just have to sort of shut it out when you feel like, oh, I'm losing purpose, or I'm just, is this worth it? Should I go for these 3 tournaments? Take the risk, go. Don't over stress.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing that helped me at least get to whatever rank. Maybe it's not the Grand Slams, not the top 50 rank, but that's the biggest thing that helped me. It's stop overthinking the little things. Just sort of shut up and do the work, and you'll get somewhere over time.
When you said that you don't have to focus on those unnecessary thoughts which come to our minds.
Mm-hmm.
I learned this from one of my life coaches, Kamil. He told me that you have to take it as a game. Like you are playing a game,
Yeah.
And whenever such thoughts come, like where you're getting negative or you're stressing about something too much, you just have to go on a third POV. You're just looking from out there and you'll be like, I got you here.
Yes, exactly.
I know what you're trying to do there. Like, okay, let's not go there. And then you just start catching it there. You have to start playing a game there.
Correct.
You mentioned about your flight anxiety and you taking Benadryl.
Yeah, I haven't taken prohibited substances, but I was taking Benadryl for a lot of flights because of my flight anxiety. And it wasn't just Benadryl. I took 10 milligrams of melatonin. You're not supposed to take more than 3 ideally, but I was taking 10. I was taking cetirizine, all the antihistamines that are available on the market, because I just wanted to pass out on flights. I had this terrible flight anxiety, and I think it all stemmed from this one traumatic experience. I was on a flight, Hyderabad to Bangalore, with my parents and my sister.
Okay.
Where on the runway, ready to take off, everything's totally normal, seatbelts fastened, engines flare up as in we start accelerating, gets very loud. You know how a plane gets really loud at the time of acceleration. And we start speeding up, again, totally normal so far. Out of nowhere, there's this loud screeching sound. Okay, and the plane immediately starts braking. So the pilots have slammed the brakes.
Oh my God. It was on the runway?
Yeah, we were still on the runway. Okay. We was just started our takeoff. About 10 seconds in, the pilots slammed the brakes, and the cabin crew starts yelling at the top of their lungs, head down, face down, head down, face down.
What the hell?
So I'm freaking out, obviously. My sister's freaking out. My mom's freaking out. My dad's freaking out. If my dad freaks out, then we're all freaking out for sure, because he's like the toughest guy in the family. So we were on, 3 seats, me, my mom, and my sister. My dad was on the other side of the aisle. So my mom grabs me and my sister and puts our head and face down, because that's the brace position. We're basically bracing for impact.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys keep screaming. The plane is screeching, and it was a very dramatic few seconds. Obviously not a long time, but those few seconds, it just felt like we were going to die. You know how your mom grabs you in such a way that she's also fearing for her life, fearing for her kids? That's how she grabbed me and my sister. And, fortunately, we came to a full halt. Right before we came to a full halt, my rebellious sister obviously lifted her face up and looked at the screen. And there was this, the TV where you can see there's a camera on the outside of the flight, and they have a screen for the passengers to be able to see what's happening. So she actually saw that this flight had it. And she looked and she saw about 50 meters in front, there was another flight that was crossing our path on the ground.
Oh my God.
That was going past our runway.
Oh my God.
And so if we had continued our takeoff and the acceleration, we would have crashed into the other plane.
Yeah.
So I think this is where my flight anxiety started, because ever since then, this happened maybe, 18, 19 years ago.
Yeah.
Ever since then, I've been just scared to get on flights.
Oh
so
my God. That must have been really tough on young Adil.
And my sister has the same fear.
Oh my God.
So I can only, take it back to that experience, because I've popped a lot of pills before flights. There was a phase where it got so bad that a friend of mine suggested this very, very, very strong medication that would just help me not feel anxious on a plane.
Yeah.
And I was flying on an airline that had recently, a couple of weeks ago, crashed. It had a bad crash.
Oh my God.
So I was already scared.
Yeah.
And I do my research before taking any sort of medication, because, I don't want to take anything that's banned. And I saw that this one pill had a banned substance in it, but it was only banned if you have it within 24 hours of competition.
Okay.
So because I was so desperate that I had to get on this flight, and I was so desperate to figure out a solution because it was a 6-hour flight journey, I booked my flight 4 days in advance just so I could take that pill, not feel anxious,
Yeah.
get to my destination, it gets out of my system. I wasn't taking it for performance enhancing in any way. I
Right.
was just taking it purely to get over my flight
Right.
anxiety. And reached there 2 days, didn't do anything, just chilled in the hotel room or whatever. Went out of my system, got tested the day of my match, and totally negative. It was fine, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's how extreme, lengths I had to go through. And that back then there was no chat GPT, so I had to research everything on the
That's
WADA
true.
list myself. But imagine how bad it had to go through that I was like willing to sort of do some crazy stuff and travel
That's
4 days earlier to a place in Africa just because I was,
Right.
so scared of flying. It's tough sometimes.
So what's your pre-flight ritual now? Like, how do you prepare yourself step by step?
I've taken a couple courses online that help with flight anxiety. Pilots just sort of explaining. So I know a lot about aircrafts. I know about wind shears, turbulence, whatever. So I know what's happening when I'm on a flight. It's just a natural sort of anxiety that I feel. So I have this like meditation routine. It's a guided meditation that I do right when I board the flight. Sometimes if it's really bad, I still take melatonin or a cetirizine tablet just to sort of be a little bit more lethargic during the journey.
Yeah.
And I have a playlist on Spotify that I created that's just calming music and stuff like that. So you got to figure out solutions. But then obviously when turbulence hits, even though I know it's 100% safe,
Yeah.
whatever airline you're on, whatever aircraft, whichever route you're flying, turbulence is like 100% fine. It's just you're scared because you're in this tiny tube just getting rattled around.
Yeah.
You just feel scared. And I don't know why. Even I feel scared. But there are certain ways to help yourself feel better in the situations. I haven't gotten over my flight anxiety yet. I still feel terrified. And I still fly almost every weekend to a different country playing tournaments all over the world. I guess if that doesn't show dedication to my sport, I don't know what does.
No, but I think this anxiety, it builds up over the period of time. Because I remember in the initial years when I used to fly a lot, I used to be very calm, chill, okay, very interested in, okay, what's going out there? Let me just see down there.
Yeah.
But lately, whenever I sit, that slightest turbulence can just scare the shit out of me.
And it's normal after that Air India incident and whatever Ethiopian Airlines.
Yeah,
A lot of
man.
Boeing issues, the Netflix show that came out. There's fear out there.
Yeah, you
It's
just
not-
start questioning.
Yeah, you start questioning it, and you're out of when you're 35,000 feet in the air, you're out of control.
Yeah.
Life is in somebody else's hands, so you have to just let go a little bit.
Yeah. When you have had a hard loss in a match, how do you process that?
There's no real easy way to process a loss. Sometimes you let the emotions, hit you. Generally, talking to my family makes me feel a little bit better. I'd say over time, when I was a kid, I used to cry a lot. Probably after every match, I was just crying. And I didn't want to show the other players that I was crying. So I'd go to my room, or if I had a roommate, I'd go to the bathroom. And I'd do one of those silent cries, so they couldn't hear me. And then I'd flush the toilet. So I'd like drown the noise of my sobs out, which is kind of sad now looking back. Yeah, as you lose more, you play enough tennis, you've handled enough failures, you get numb to it. So now when I lose a match, it's just like, okay, this is part of the sport. Like, done it enough times, it's okay. Sometimes it stings when you've had a match point, or you're, winning and then you lose in the last second, or you lose a bit of focus, or you had an easy ball and you missed it, you messed it up somehow. Then it stings a bit more. And then I find it sometimes just hard to sleep that night because I'll be sleeping and I'll just think about it and I'll be twitching in bed. So those are the things that sort of linger. But that sadness, that sad feeling after a loss, it settles down, I guess, with experience and age. I sound like an uncle right now, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but if a young Adil is watching this podcast, and what advice you would want to give him how to process that loss mentally?
I mean, nothing that's already been said, just it's fine. It's part of the process. You're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some. Don't take it too hard, but use it as fuel. If you lose, use it as motivation to just work harder, get back to the drawing board, push yourselves more, make better decisions, eat better food, train with higher intensity, those kinds of things. But the second you let the losses spiral, which I did at some point in my life, then it starts affecting you, and it starts affecting your personal life outside the court. So there's a lot of consequences to allowing that loss to stay inside and to just keep getting worse and worse. You got to let it go.
That's the key. You just have to keep everything go away.
Exactly.
Yeah. So your friends in Bangalore, they are partying, living that laid back life.
Yes.
You are choosing discipline. How do you handle FOMO?
Great question. Living in a city like Bangalore, everybody's smoking up, drinking, chasing girls, hookups. Like it's a very, I'd say, toxic scene. I'm not a big fan of that word though. So I'm just going to say it's a very distracting environment to live and be in, especially if you want to be a professional athlete, if you want to be disciplined, have early mornings, be at your physical peak state. You can't allow yourself to fall into those distractions.
That's right.
And when you live in an urban city, it's all around you. So your friends are going out, everybody you know is going out. There's some big event. There's always something happening, and it's always hip and fun and exciting and new, and you don't know who you're going to meet. And so there's a lot of FOMO that builds up. And when I lived in Europe, I didn't have the FOMO because I didn't hear about what was going on back in Bangalore. But now that I'm living in Bangalore again, I keep hearing about all the events and stuff like that. It's hard. Sometimes you're just like, oh, I just want to go. Okay, a couple hours. It's not going to make a big difference. But you sleep late one night. The next day you're groggy. Your muscles aren't recovered from your gym session.
Yeah.
Monday morning you're not pushing yourself as hard. It's a cycle. So there is a certain level of discipline that you have to live by if you want to play tennis. And so it's been hard at times because sometimes when you're not doing well in tennis, you're just like, why can't I just go out and chill and like have a good time? So what I realized that worked really well for me is having a really, really good balance. I only go out with my friends or have a good time if I feel like I really, really deserved it. I'm not going to go if I've had a crappy week or if I'm injured and I haven't played any tennis or haven't done any gym or any fitness or whatever. I have to have had a really, really productive week, a couple of weeks in order to gift myself the privilege of going out and having fun.
Yeah.
Now, this may be me being a little bit harsh on myself, but I feel like it's the only way I've been able to keep some sort of discipline. Because if I fall into the normal trap of what Bangalore brings you, I would be at a different bar every weekday, every weekend.
Yeah.
Just like, smoking
You've
cigarettes.
got a lot of options there.
Yeah, you have a lot of options. You just be somewhere, be like, hey, macha, what's the scene, bro? And you just head out. In 10 minutes, you'd be somewhere. Okay, in an hour because Bangalore traffic. But you'd just constantly be chilling. And that's not the way I want to live my life. So had to sort of establish some boundaries. And creating a balanced life is one of the main boundaries that I feel like I've been able to establish. And all the friends that I hang out with are pretty much the same kind of, they have the same mindset as me.
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of people need to learn, that you have to live by this principle where you have to give yourself some tasks. If you accomplish them, then you have to reward yourself. If don't, then you have to have a consequence there too.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And that's, I feel like the only way we'll move forward with, the goals that we've set and stuff. If you sort of stick by the timelines that you've given yourself and create certain boundaries and hold your friends accountable, and they should hold you at the same time.
Yeah. And what you just explained about the athlete's life, that just helped me tap into one of the incidents of my career, that I was getting injured a lot back then, but I didn't realize why is that happening. But now when I look back, how much you're sleeping, what are you eating, all these things. But although I was thinking I'm doing enough, but the living conditions where what was provided to me by the Indian Navy was not optimum enough. So it was like a dormitory. And you are having a hard day, whole day you are like 8 to 10 hours, you are working hard out there on court, in the gym.
Yeah.
And then you don't get a peaceful sleep.
Yeah.
That's gonna affect.
It affects,
Yeah.
Sleep is actually one of the things that affect
That's right.
player the most.
Your sports psychology rap talks about it's just you against you. What does that actually mean in practice?
It's just you against you means you are your biggest friend and enemy. It depends on what relationship you want to have with yourself. Do you want to push yourself to be the best version that you can possibly be? Or do you want to accept that, this is, my maximum potential and I'm going to live in my comfort zone? So the time where this was a big part of my life was, like I told you, in Germany. I used to hold a knife by my wrist.
For real?
For real. I just hold it there. I just place it on my wrist. I wasn't going to do anything. I wasn't going to do anything crazy. I know this sounds a little bit deep.
Yeah.
But I was going through such a mentally dark place that it just gave me comfort. Because I'd be there with that knife there just thinking, if I, just move my hand a little bit, it's all over. All my problems are gone because I'm technically not living anymore. That's the time when I realized that, okay, this is becoming a bit of an issue and my mental state is getting a little bit too dark for me to handle. So it's when I finally opened up a little bit. I opened up a bit to my parents and then, spoke to a psychologist, those kinds of things. But the main thing that I was struggling with was the guilt of how I come from such a loving family. I'm chasing my dreams. I'm like, I have everything going for me in life. Why am I still feeling sad and depressed and lonely and, just spending a lot of my days just silently crying. And I didn't want to tell anybody because it sounds stupid. I'm just like, why am I don't know why I'm just feeling low and depressed. Like, there's no reason for me to feel this way. And so I did a decent amount of research and I was kind of understanding, what is mental health all about. And so the whole you against you thing, it's basically sometimes you can't explain something because it's certain chemicals in your brain that are just making you feel a certain way. And that's why I'm such an advocate on like mental health and these kind of topics, primarily because I went through something that didn't make sense to me. I couldn't understand why I was feeling a certain way, but I just was. And at the end of the day, I could talk to 100 psychologists. I could have love all around me and, my family and my friends and whatever. I could have everything, but it is you that has to make the decision. It is you that has to get yourself out of that mental rut. And the only way is by being self-aware. It's by feeding yourself those positive thoughts. If you are living in that victim mindset, which I was living in, of my life is like this is just how I feel, I just have to accept it. Some people go through this. Okay. Like, you're never going to get out of it because you're always sort of accepting where you are. But in reality, if you want to change it, if you want to improve your life, you want to be in a happier place, you've got to sort of make those conscious decisions yourself. And you have access to making those conscious decisions on a daily basis, where going for a run, making your mood a little bit better, meditating, every time a negative thought is affecting you, do something positive, have a checklist, chase your goals with timelines and, be productive with your days, live a life that you're proud of, and then things will start happening. So I think that's the one place where I realized a lot of my mental issues sort of took care of itself.
Yeah.
Because I stopped looking for answers externally and, I need a therapist or I just needed this. Yeah. Yes, they all help for sure. But at the end of the day, it is you against you. You have to figure out the answers yourself. You have to do some internal conversations. You just have to sit down with yourself and work on things.
Thanks for trusting me on this, Adil. For sharing
Pleasure.
it here.
Weirdly, I actually haven't told my parents to this extent. I told them that I had like those thoughts.
Yeah.
So I shared that with them only a year ago. This was 5 years ago where,
Yeah.
it was about a 3-month phase for this whole knife thing I was doing every evening. It just gave me comfort. I'm like, now's my time to go to the kitchen and get that knife.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, looking back, it's like, oh my God, how did I not how are alarms not going off in my head? But so last year I told my parents about this thing and they were like, why didn't you tell us? Oh my God. And I guess they're feeling bad. As parents, that's your, biggest fear. But sometimes a kid has to go through it himself and he comes out a better person. And I'm glad I did because it sort of turned me into who I am.
I remember myself in the same state, but I never felt suicidal, to be honest. But I caught myself in that victim mindset.
Yeah.
So in that moment, what I was doing was I was just getting injured. Things were not working in my favor. I left Navy. I started pursuing tennis professionally again, getting injured again. And I was just catching myself all the time, getting into this victim mindset, telling my mom that I don't know why this only happens to me. I've been doing this, that so much, but it's not working out. I just changed one habit. Every morning I used to wake up and I started writing 10 things I'm grateful about. Every day it used to be something different, but there are so many different things out there which one should be grateful about. And
Definitely.
that little change made me feel like, I'm so privileged already.
Yeah. Just practicing gratitude. They say, you should write down 10 things every morning, every evening, whatever you can. Because it rewires the brain into just being appreciative.
That's true.
Rather than in that victim mindset.
And that's when you start attracting better things in your life.
Correct.
Because you are in that negative mindset and you're just shrinking your mind to just, narrow down to on those bad things in your life.
Yeah.
But when you start thinking about that one good thing which is happening in your life and you're like, damn, life is good.
Life is great. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a privilege to be on tour. Yeah, traveling 25 weeks, different countries, different continent.
Yeah, it's a dream.
Yeah.
Some people die to have this opportunity.
That's true. So Adil, you mentioned you transformed yourself from that dark phase to where you are at now. You wrote a rap about it called Staying. How did that creative mind help you get out of where you were?
So this was actually a sort of a R&B pop kind of song. And Staying was those dark thoughts that I mentioned, not wanting to exist on this planet, all of those deep stuff.
Yeah.
That's the lyrics of the song were basically inspired during that time. And it was just sort of me expressing expression is a therapy of its own. Once I realized how much that was actually helping me, because me being like this introverted, sort of wanting to be in my comfort zone, not talking to anybody, not having a lot of friends, not sharing or opening up about my life, it was taking me more and more into this like bubble. And I was just secluded off from the world. And I thought this is, how I want to live my life and stuff. But I realized it was actually affecting me more than it was helping me by being in this tiny bubble. And expression really helped me sort of become a better version of myself, be more open, more just be okay with being vulnerable. I didn't have to be this perfect dude who's just like, conservative.
Not the alpha male.
Yeah, I don't have to be this alpha male. I can just be weird and blah and like say whatever I want. And it's fine if somebody doesn't like me, whatever. Like whatever attracts, it attracts. Like it was this like realization of letting go. I'm just going to be myself.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, happens. I don't care, people don't have to like me. It's not about getting liked or not. It's just about me living a life that I want to live and not being tied down by the social norms of, don't post and don't this thing and live in your little bubble and like people will judge, all of that. Don't want to live being scared of all that. So what I try to, share in some of my songs is you should also express, if you want to make content, don't do it. Don't hold yourself back because you feel my friends are going to judge me.
Yeah.
I want to start a YouTube, a makeup tutorial, but like, what will people think? Like, why are you caring so much about what people think?
Exactly.
Like we are at some point going to be buried 6 feet underneath the ground and never exist ever again in our life.
No one's gonna know what you did.
No one's going to know. And a heart probably not even going to be remembered. In 100 years from now, we're going to be dust. Like, why do we care so much about what everybody else is thinking? So when I started expressing and realizing how much, fulfillment or just peace that was giving me, I'm like constantly trying to urge people, just share, just open up, just talk, be vulnerable. Vulnerability is a strength. Because if you can be vulnerable to other people, you can just be honest as a human being. You can be honest to yourself. You can be honest to other people and they'll see it. So it builds more authentic friendships. It builds more, self-confidence in yourself because you're like, I can be who I am.
Yeah.
And it's not like I need anybody's approval in being this person. So it's a very liberating feeling, I think.
Yeah, that's where I caught up myself also. Where, not only me, a lot of people are stuck just because they don't know what they actually want.
Yes.
And they just pretend to be someone else.
Correct.
And that's a way of healing itself. You're just healing yourself by being yourself.
Correct.
So now how do you recognize that you are going back into that dark space or your mind is taking back to your dark space?
One thing that I realized is whether it's men or women, we have hormonal fluctuations. Okay, it's something I didn't know. And I do a lot of research and stuff because I like reading self-help books and, Andrew Huberman, David Goggins, all these like inspirational people, plus, the science-backed research. And so I realized that we all go through these sort of ups and downs with our normal sort of hormones, emotions, whatever it may be. So sometimes I'll have this like incredibly productive week and then sometimes I'll just be lazy and unmotivated. I realize that sometimes those fluctuations take you down and make you feel a bit sad, make you feel low, whatever it may be. And that's okay. The second you start victimizing yourself in that situation, allowing it to spiral, feeling like, why do I feel this way? Allowing guilt to creep in. It's a phase. Like it's like you're on a flight and there's turbulence. The turbulence is going to pass. It might feel a little rocky and uncomfortable for a certain amount of time. Just give it the time that it needs. And you will get through it.
Yeah. There's another way to look at it. When you catch yourself being in that where you don't feel like doing it, there's a way you just do it.
Yeah. When you're the most scared to jump off a cliff, you jump.
Yeah.
There's this thing in Where the Millers, okay? And the movie Where the Millers. And it's something that I've used this a lot in my life. Whenever it's something that I don't want to do and something that I'm feeling a little scared, a little bit anxious, a little bit hesitant, just count 3, 2, 1 and do it.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's weird that I learned this from a comedy movie.
Oh, wow.
But the guy says, just say 3, 2, 1 in your head and go do it. Shut the mind off. It gives you zero chance to hesitate, to doubt whether I should do it, should not do it. 3, 2, 1, go do it.
Yeah.
And this has like actually been a lifesaver in certain
this is actually a trick which a lot of people use. I learned it in one of my community calls I used to do with Pat Finn.
Okay.
He runs a community and he was like, when you see yourself procrastinating, just say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and just do it.
And just do it. Don't think. Yeah. And it's a great way of doing it.
Yeah. So your mental health content for men, what are the actual steps you recommend?
Steps. I mean, overall, I think we covered most of it, but to summarize, I'd say one, body has to stay active. There is scientific backing that says if your body is idle, it affects your mental state of mind. So you need to get blood flow going. You just need to go for a run. You need a gym, lift weights, whatever. But you just gotta get blood flow moving around your body. The longer you stay at home, just watching Netflix, feeling sad for yourself, whatever it may be, you're just causing a deeper and deeper hole for yourself. Number two, I'd say is be vulnerable, open up, share, talk to your friends. A lot of people hesitate to talk to their friends because they feel like they'll be judged. But you'd be surprised how many of your close friends will actually be there for you in a time when you open up. And third and finally, I feel like being in a good frame of mind comes from understanding about the brain and understanding that your mind is not you. And this is something that the psychologist that I'm currently working with, Sri Advani, he taught me in one of the first sessions. He said you have to differentiate yourself from the mind. The mind is a separate entity altogether. It is feeding you negative emotions. It's making you feel sad when that girl rejects you. It's making you feel pain when you've lost that match. It's making you feel all the things negative. If you can separate from your mind, you're an entity who's like, you're just a person with complete control over your emotions. You're a person with complete freedom to feel however you want to feel. You don't have to be affected by a failure, a rejection, a loss, because that's all the mind, the ego that is getting killed. That the ego is getting bruised, and that's why you feel a certain way. But the ego is only affecting the mind. If you can find a way to differentiate from the mind, and that's where meditation comes into play.
Yeah. This is such a powerful tip that the mind is not us. The mind is actually the voices we have been fed by the society.
Yeah.
What we are consuming on our phones, the reels we are watching, the shows we are watching, the people we are growing up.
Yeah. The mind is manipulated easily by everything we see.
Yeah. So it's the voices.
Correct.
So coming to the next part, you said tennis has a shelf life.
Yeah.
But your voice could outlive you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think about building something beyond your athletic career while still competing?
I mean, yeah, so tennis has a shelf life. Whether I like it or not, in a few years, I'm going to have to hang up the racket. The body can only handle so much damage over the years. My voice as an artist will last till the day I die. And if it's remotely impactful, even after I die, hopefully somebody might find a video on YouTube in God knows 200 years.
You're like Sidhu Moosewala.
Yeah, Sidhu Moosewala, legacy lives on. But I think it's important for anybody who's pursuing something which has a shelf life to also build something that will last forever. It could be anything from, getting into the stock market. It could be a side skill, piano, learning piano, cooking, whatever it could be. But beyond your shelf life career, you should be spending an hour a week even. Like something very, very small is also fine. It's just you have to be building something on the side. And I feel like everybody should be doing
Yeah,
this.
and I think that's where a lot of people miss on to, a lot of athletes, especially when they're just pursuing that one goal. Okay, I want to be a tennis pro, I want to be a cricketer, and they miss out on this very crucial step that they have to keep on building something on the side, because you can't be thinking all about sport the whole time. You have to take your mind off.
Exactly.
To feel free, to feel fresh, and to love your sport more.
Yeah, I go to tournaments and all of these guys are just like, it's tennis and then it's chilling on their phone, scrolling.
Yeah.
Have lunch, continue scrolling, rest a bit, go back onto the tennis court, come back in the evening, watch Netflix. That's their entire day. But there is so much free time and you're just wasting it being in this, dopamine chasing state, chasing cheap dopamine on your phone. But when you could be building things that post your tennis career could really come to good use.
Yeah.
And so all my friends who are tennis players, even if they're not tennis players, if they're doing something else, if they have a corporate job, whatever, I'm just always trying to convince people to do other things as well. It's not like it needs to take up so much of your time, but you got to build something, because one day that shelf life tennis career will end.
Yeah.
And what then? If your whole life is just tennis, the second is over, you're going to have an identity crisis. You're going to struggle to figure out what you want to do in your life next.
Yeah, dude, that's exactly what happened with me when I was stepping out of tennis. I was like, okay, I'm clueless. Now what to do? What else to do?
Yeah.
I was not stepping out of my house. I was just, out of 24 hours, 20 hours, I was only in the bed. I was eating in the bed, sleeping, just watching stuff. I was so depressed because I didn't know what else to do after tennis.
It took you how long to get out of that?
4 years.
4 years.
Just to accept the fact that, okay, it's over.
Imagine you were building something during your tennis career. As soon as tennis is done, you focus on building that. Maybe that's not your life's passion, but you have something to spend your days. You have 24 hours in a day. You got to spend it somewhere.
That's
if you're
true.
only focused on tennis, once it's over, like you said, you're spending all your time in bed feeling depressed.
Yeah.
But you got to have something else that you're also doing or building. Anything.
That's why I'm doing this, to bring out these stories.
Mm.
This is something very personal to me as well, because I want to help people out there. I don't want to see them in the phase where I saw myself.
Mm.
So how do you balance present performance with your future planning?
I mean, present performance, you're always looking very short term. So it's just, okay, next week I'm going to this country for this tournament. I got to prepare this way, and this is the only way I can give my best at the tournament. Long term, you're sort of trying to create a goal in your head and then work backwards. For a lot of players, it really helps. For me, it didn't help so much, because when you create a goal in your head, you want to reach somewhere around that. Say you don't because you have an injury or whatever, it just affects you mentally. So I like to just focus on the short-term goals. It's just, okay, this month, this is my target. I'm going to these 3 tournaments. This is the goal that I'd like to reach. I want to make semis or I want to make finals. That's my goal for right now. I'm not thinking about what rank I want to be at the end of the year or anything beyond that. Because personally for me, it ended up feeling like year after year, I wasn't hitting the target. And it just made me feel lower and lower. So I was like, why do something that, even though it's traditionally accepted and they always tell you, create what's your long-term vision and then work backwards and stuff like that. I like to give myself short-term targets and just meet that. Okay, now what's the next one? Just meet that.
So what's your short-term goal, if you mind sharing here on the pod?
I mean, right now I'd love to get into the doubles dream of India. That was started by Rohan Bopanna.
Yeah.
It's very, very new for Indian tennis, because it's for the first time we're having a corporation come out and supporting athletes on their journey.
Yeah.
I'm sure there have been some in the past, but none that have stuck around for the years, for long enough. So this has come into play. It's being run by, one of the best tennis players India has ever produced. If it's by the players and for the players, it's going to be good. If it's by some random businessman who's just, doing this on the side, then it never goes the distance. But because this is being run by somebody so credible, it's a lot of players' dream at this point. I want to be part of the doubles dream of India.
Yeah. So what's the number?
You have to be top 200.
Top 200
in doubles. Yeah. So I'm 260 or something around there.
So for athletes or high performers, when should they start thinking about what's next?
When should they start? It's honestly depends on each player. I've known some guys who ended up quitting when they were 13, 14 years old, some when they reached 12th grade, some when they just started college. There's different phases where players have just started looking, okay, it's time for me to move on from tennis. And a lot of them ended up going to US college and then just hanging up the boots there. I don't know, maybe college was just fun, they got distracted, or maybe they just got some really high-paying corporate job and they were just like, what's the point of, grinding it out in tennis for the same amount of money? But essentially, when you are not seeing the vision, you don't have that intrinsic drive in you for a significantly large period of time, then it's probably time to sort of take a step back and put out a drawing board and understand whether is this something that you can see yourself doing for the next 5-6 years, even if there is no reward, even if you don't make it to that rank. Would you still do it? Are you enjoying it that much? Or is it something that you're so passionate about that even if you were guaranteed to not make it, would you still enjoy the entire process? Or are you only doing it because you want that result? Indians tend to peak after the age of like 25, 26.
That's true.
So if an Indian is watching this, I'd recommend, push yourself till the age where your body is physically peaked, and then take a call after that. If you're not good enough or you feel you're not enjoying it then, sure, then, take a step back. But give it a shot till then.
Yeah.
As long as you are seeing the vision and you're enjoying the grind.
Yeah. If tennis ended tomorrow, life hits you out of nowhere, all the expectations disappeared, who would Adil Kalyanpur would be?
Just a dude who's trying to make the most of his life. I feel like whether tennis is in my life or not, or music is there or not, whatever, at the end of the day, you got to do something that you are excited to wake up for. So it doesn't have to be like you're always chasing stardom and I have to be playing Wimbledon, otherwise I'm not going to be happy. Be happy waking up, being able to hug your family. There's just so much to be grateful for. I think you could strip away everything from my life and I'd still find enjoyment in just existing. I know it sounds cliche, but it's the reality.
Yeah, that's so powerful, man. Who would you like to be remembered as? An athlete or an artist?
Obviously a mix of both, but at the end of the day, if something that I do can help somebody in some sort of way
Or inspire someone.
or inspire someone, I mean, if somebody started playing tennis because they watched me play, that would be the most like fulfilling thing ever. At the same time, yeah, if somebody saw one of my songs and it helped them through a dark phase or whatever, that would be equally fulfilling. So there's nothing that I'd want to be remembered by per se, just to be able to make a difference or an impact in some way or the other. And that's what we're all trying to chase. No, you're trying to chase the same thing with your podcast,
That's true.
because that's what life is about at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Trying to make a difference in whatever way we can.
Yeah.
That's all. it is.
100%. 100%. That should be the goal. It's like a kind of a seva you are doing. You're giving
Mm.
back to the sport, not only
Yeah.
to the sport, to the community, to
Exactly.
the people out there.
Yeah.
For someone listening who's wearing a mask that's suffocating them, whether it's the perfect employee, the strong man, the grateful child, what would you tell them about taking the first breath of authenticity?
I come from a privileged family, and for the longest time, I felt guilty about it. So in juniors, everybody would show up to the tournament after a 26-hour train ride and, be there with their one little backpack and their old tennis racket, whatever. I'd have just popped off a 45-minute flight. I have my whatever, new shoes, new racket, freshly strung, all of those things. I always felt like I had a certain privilege over a lot of the other players. To be brutally honest, a lot of Indians are shameless when they talk about things. So a couple juniors, I don't want to say names because they still play even now, but came up and said, "Oh, dude, you travel to France and Spain for all these for all these training camps and stuff, and then you come back here and we're the same level. So if I were to go to France and Spain, how much better would I be than you?" So things like that plant seeds in your head. So for the longest time, I felt like I had this mask because I was trying to hide who I really was or what kind of family I came from. I mean, we have a tennis court at home, and I tried hiding that for as long as I could. You can't, obviously, on the tennis circuit. People find out. But I was so embarrassed to have certain privileges and opportunities. There were times when my mom would send me to a tournament in Uber rental, and I'd tell the driver to wait like 300 meters away from the tennis center. I'd stop the car there and I'd walk to the courts because I was just embarrassed. Everybody else was either coming in autos or they wanted to save the 30 rupee auto ride and they'd walk 2 kilometers to the courts. And so it just felt like I had this like this unfair advantage. You have to look at things from different points of view. And this is not me saying like one way is worse than the other. I looked at it sort of like, okay, I have these opportunities or this privilege. There's a guy who is fighting for, if he wins this match, he gets enough money to have dinner that night or to book his train back. One way of looking at it is that he has such extra fuel and motivation and dedication because he has to win that match. Otherwise, he doesn't get a meal that night. So it's like he's got this intrinsic fire and flame. And that's something that I didn't have, because whether I win or lose, I'm going back home to this cushy life. My parents love me. They're going to give me a hug when I walk home. I have a hot food, a hot meal on the table when I reach. So it's like I have to work on that internal fuel and motivation myself. And over time, you realize that the advantage is how you use it or not. And I wasn't using the advantage. I refused to play on the court at home because other people didn't have that opportunity.
So do you play at your court?
I don't.
Oh,
Even now, I just say I want to go to an academy and I want to train with where everybody else is training. And I guess to a certain extent, I still have a mask on because I am somewhat trying to keep that part of my life hidden. To just acknowledge that it is on, I think is the first step of learning more about yourself, getting a bit better, and just slowly peeling away the layers.
Yeah.
It's not one mask that you take off.
Yeah.
It's several tiny 0.1 mm masks that you're just taking off as life sort of progresses. And I'm sort of still on that journey of acceptance.
I loved how brutally honest you were about you still wearing that mask somewhere and you trying to peel it off layer by layer. It has been incredible. I think what you have shown, that mask isn't a protection, it's a prison. So for everyone listening, if you are wearing a mask that's suffocating you, whether it's a perfect employee, the strong man, the grateful child, remember what Adil said. The first step is just breathing, taking one honest breath, and acknowledging your own mask. But thank you so much, Adil, for being here. It was lovely hearing you sharing your journey as a tennis player, as an artist, as a son. That was really powerful story, brutally honest. Loved every bit of it.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. It was a vibe. Good experience for me too. Enjoyed it a lot. and the mask with Abhivir.
Like,
Tune in.
subscribe.
Like, subscribe, share with your friends.
Yeah.